What's up, my fellow Lich player? If you're watching this video, it's probably that you've heard about Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, the ability to become a Lich, and you were wondering, what the hell was that about? Well, today, that's exactly what we're gonna speak about. In Pathfinder, you get the upgrade of Mythic Paths. Basically, godlike powers are given to you to fight the forces of evil in the world of Golarion. Now, this means a lot of things, but most importantly, it means that being a Lich is a fantasy that is realized, dare I say, fairly well in this game. To begin with, whenever you're a caster class, you will have the ability to merge your spellbook with the spellbook of your class. This will mean that your caster level will be equal to your level plus your mythic rank, because you will have 8 mythic rank that will advance as well with the story, essentially. So as you can see here, I am level 13 and my full level is 17 because in my mythic path I am at rank 4. We can then say that 13 plus 4 is 17. You can also decide to not merge the spellbook. This way, you will have something that will look a little weird. You will have 13 level in Wizard and then 4 level in Lich. And those two classes will be different. Now, what does this mean? This means you will have more spells, but a lower overall level. So it's kind of, what do you prefer? Having a ton of spells or having the strongest spell be available earlier? Because now we'll see, I'm only level 13 and I already have access to level 9 spell because my caster level is 17, which is fairly insane for that point in the story. Now, for the meat of the video, I'm just gonna go over the spell list that you get as a Lich, because some people might wonder, how is the fantasy being incorporated into the game? What gameplay elements do you have, and what spells do you have? So that's exactly what we're gonna do. This is gonna be a video about the spells, and then I'm kind of fast gonna go over the mythic paths progression, but the spell is really the meat and potato of the Lich. If you are a non-caster and you still want to be a Lich because you want to be a cool Death Knight or whatever, that is perfectly fine. Just know that the class will not be as strong as it could be with a full caster. We're talking here anything from the Witch to the Kineticist to the Arcanist to the Sorcerer and finally to the Wizard. Without further ado, let's get into it. There is no level 1 or 2 spell for the Lich, which is understandable since you get your first real spell at Mythic rank 3. That means that even if you didn't merge a spellbook, your only spell would be a 3rd level spell. So here we are. You gain the spell automatically, you don't have to choose between them, they're just added to your spellbook whenever you reach the sufficient level to use them. So let's go into them. The first one is Corrupted Blood. Corrupted Blood reads as such. It is 1 round per level, and the target can save each round. It is 1 creature within medium range. And it reads, you corrupt the blood of the enemy, making it contagious. The target is nauseated for 1 round per caster level. Every round can make a new saving throw to remove the nauseated condition. The saving throw is... it doesn't say. It's probably Fortitude saving throw. If the saving throw is successful, the target instead becomes sickened. If the target dies while nauseated condition, it deals 6d6 damage to all creature within 15 feet radius and applies Corrupted Blood to them. So this is kind of the meme spell. It is very good in AoE if you can kill the target. The thing is, it will spread to anyone afterwards. your allies are included in this, and it will deal damage to your allies as well. So it's kind of dangerous, because if you don't kill the target fast enough, it will just run into melee range, and then your tank and DPS are at high risk, because 6d6 is no joke. Overall, this spell is really fun. It's very flavorful. It's not that good because of the friendly fire opportunity, but overall, this is a really good spell flavor-wise. The next one is going to be Mastery of Flesh. It reads as such. It is one creature with within medium range, so that's kind of far. Medium range for wizard is pretty big in this game. You know how to deal with both mortal and immortal flesh. When used against an enemy, the spell deals 4d8 plus caster level damage. So in this instance, it would deal 4d8 plus 17, because the caster level is the full level of it, to a living target, and 2d8 plus caster level to undead target. When used on an ally, it instead heals undead target for 4d8 plus caster level, and living target for 2d8 plus caster level. I'm basically using this as an emergency heal for myself, or for some undead companions, because you do get undead companions. But yeah, basically this is an emergency heal. It can deal quite a lot of damage, and it is non-savable. That means the target will take 4d8 plus caster level. It's not that big of a scaling, but if you really need to just snuff out someone real quick for guaranteed damage, this is it. And we all know how in these games guaranteed damage is strong. Let's just take a look at Magic Missile in all of the games. It's one of the best spell there is. The next one is Power from Death. The duration is 1 round per level. You know how to gain strength from fallen allies and enemies alike. You gain +1 to attack rolls, saving throws, and damage rolls for every dead creature in 30 feet radius, up to a maximum of 3 + 1 per 5 caster level. So that means every 5 caster level, this bonus increases by 1. So here it would cap at the 15 mark, because we are 17, so it's every 5 caster level. So at 15, it would give us 3 additional possible target. So we would have 3 + 3, so 6. If the bonus is +3 or higher, you additionally gain the effect of the Haste spell. So this is insane, because, how do I say? If you want to become a Death Knight, to just be like a fire class or whatever else, and have still the Lich spellbook, this is a spell you're gonna get, and this is a buff that you're really gonna want. You're probably gonna only use this power from the 3rd level, which is understandable, because it is a very strong power. This basically buffs all of your attack rolls, saving throw, and damage rolls. Guaranteed numbers, like adding +1 is really good. If you get this to like +6 right now, +6 is insane to have. Especially on attack rolls, saving throws, and damage. Saving throws you might just have problems with regardless, but attack rolls is insanely strong. So that's about it. That's it for level 3. I should note there aren't that many spells, but they are very flavorful. So let's keep going to level 4. The first one is Consume Undead. You siphon the power of unlife from the target undead creature. If it's an enemy, it is dealt 1d8 damage per caster level. So here it would be 17d8, which is no big deal. Which is a big deal, actually. Sorry. If you are ill for the same amount. If it's an ally, the damage is maximized to 8 damage per caster level. So let me get this right. You take one undead over there, and you deal it 17d8. Now this is important, because as a Lich, you shouldn't have problems with other undeads. You're kind of the master of it all, the master of death. You have your own sect, you have your own cult, you even have your own followers that are undead in the game, as you will see. This means that this spell is very flavorful. It trivializes a lot of the encounters that you enter with that are undead after that point. That would be difficult for other mythic paths, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? The game is not made to be balanced 100%, and this is about it. The next one is Eye of the Bodak. So you basically gain a deaf sight gaze attack. Now gaze attacks are really strong because you can do them as swift action, I believe, or free action. Meaning that in this game you can do your full round and still have your gaze. Now, your eyes become filled with unthinkable aura. For 1 round per caster level, so that would be 17 round, you gain a gaze, giving your enemies in 30 feet a negative level each round. So that's really good because you'll see later down in the game, enemies become quite strong. They have a lot of levels and a lot of armor class. This reduces their stats by a significant margin. Because if you do it at the start of a fight, and the boss fight or any hard encounter takes, let's say, 10 rounds, well, that's 10 negative level to everybody in a 30 feet radius, which you will usually be because of the point blank feat. This is insane. Probably the best spell there is at that level. And it's also a really good one for warriors and fighters and whatnot, because there's no save. They just get a negative level every time. Another one that's really good for fighters and death knights and whatnot is Vampiric Blade. Your weapon becomes bloodthirsty. It deals 1d6 plus caster level additional damage, healing the wielder for the same amount. So here it would deal 1d6 plus 17 damage, and it would heal you for 1d6 plus 17. It's not the full damage of the weapon that it's healing you for, it's just the damage done by Vampiric Blade. And it is 1 minute per level. So that means here it is 17, it would be 17 minutes. I don't use it because I don't really do anything of the sort. But this is the Death Knight ability of this whole thing. And honestly, it is pretty cool. I haven't used it much because I'm a mage, but I've tried it a few times and it is very nice. Sadly, as a mage, you cannot put this on your allies. It is a personal thing. You can't put this on your allies. That would be literally insane. And that is it for the level 4. If you're wondering how I'm discerning which one is which, the little border around the spell tells you if it is a Lich spell. So every spell that has this little thorny little border here is a Lich spell. Let's keep going. Level 5. Bone Explosion. The target's bone explodes in the body. If the target fails a Fortitude saving throw, it receives 6 damage per caster level. And all creatures within 20 feet radius receive 1d6 damage per caster level. Reflex saves, half the damage. If the Fortitude saving throw is a success, the target receives 1d6 damage per caster level, and all creatures in a 20 feet radius receive 1 damage per caster level. And then reflex saves, half is this. That's really bad. That's a really bad spell, and I'll explain to you why exactly. At first you're seeing this and you're like, well, that's a lot of damage in an area, right? The big problem is that there's 2 saves for it. So first off, the first target needs to have a low Fortitude saving throw, or else it's only gonna deal 1d6 damage to him per caster level, which is, it is pretty neat. Okay, the 1d6 is good. The problem with this is that everyone else only gets 1 damage, which is nothing, and then they can negate that with a reflex save, which most enemies will pass in this game. The saves from the enemies, unless you drain their stats, is fairly big. We're not gonna lie here. That means this spell does significant negligible damage, and I would not recommend it, also because it would hurt your allies in melee range, which are honestly more likely to fail their reflex saves than the enemies with boosted up stats. The next one is Denied Death. It is a 10 minute per level spell. You place a ward guarding the target from death. For the next 10 minutes per level, if the target dies, it is instead saved but paralyzed until the end of battle. This is cool. It's not bad by any means. It stays for a long time, and you basically prevent a target from dying. But the moment you get enough money to buy Scrolls of Resurrection, or that your Cleric or Oracle, namely Darren or Soziel, if you know a bit about the game, get the spell Raise Dead, this is useless. It is useless. It truly is. Exsanguinate. Now, this is a damage spell. Alright, this is the real damage spell of this thing. You force the target's blood to overflow in its body. The target receives 1d6 damage per caster level and makes a Fortitude saving throw. If it fails, the target receives 1d6 strength damage. So their strength stat is drained by 1d6 and 2d6 bleed damage. So they're gonna take even more damage. That's really good. That is the guaranteed damage spell you want because it's not gonna hit your enemies. The target can pass the Fortitude saving throw, but it will still be good. So I would go with Exsanguinate over Bone Explosion any day of the week. Now, there is a universe where if you can guarantee the Fortitude saving throw to be failed on Bone Explosion, it's gonna do more damage. For sure. Enemies just have such high fortitude that it's very unlikely, is all I'm saying. Next up, Repurpose. Now we're getting into the real fun spell. So, I'm gonna read Repurpose, and then I'm gonna explain what it does. Because it is very confusing, and I had to do a lot of testing to be able to really find out what it does for real. So, let's get into it. You mark a target with a Curse of Servitude for 1 round per 2 caster level. That means it's half of your caster level in round, so that's still pretty good. The target is dealt 1d6 damage per round. If the target dies during the effect, it is revived after death as an undead creature under your command. Now this sounds very nice, that's why I tested it a lot, and I'm gonna explain to you exactly what I found out. If you cast this on a creature and it dies, it will resurrect from its place. It will serve you, it will follow you. You cannot control it. It is not an animal companion. It is an AI controlled entity. It's like in fights where there's NPCs that are helping you. This is the exact same thing. It revives with low HP, so usually you want to do this on targets with regeneration or targets that you are ready to fully heal because they are gonna run headstrong into battle. They keep every single ability they had. That is good, and that is a problem. That is good because you could repurpose a mage to fireball the enemies. This is bad because you could repurpose a mage to fireball the enemies while your allies are in there. It will not care about friendly fire whatsoever. It will cast everything it can to the enemies. And if you're in its way, too bad, buddy. So usually I try to take on tanks because the enemies in this game have very high AC. AC being armor class, if you're kind of new to this game. So I'm gonna either get enemies that have high AC and regeneration, like I'm not gonna spoil any enemies, but those in Blackwater, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna take those most of the times. I'm gonna try at the very least. It is good to note that the enemies will not leave the area. Therefore, it's better used in a dungeon where you can... where basically you know there's going to be a boss fight. The story has a few boss fights. Pretty much at every end of the dungeon, there's going to be a tough encounter. You want those to be there. They can be buffed, they can be used, but they are, for all intents and purposes, random summoned undead that will do whatever they can to hit stuff. So that's pretty cool. It is worth also noting that you cannot claim any loot from the repurposed target. You will have a few seconds to open the loot table between the moment of its death and the moment it is reborn, it is a very slight window. I would not use this on bosses. The damage is not worth it, and you'll just lose loot, and then you're gonna exit the area because the boss is the final part of the dungeon, and you're just gonna lose the boss. Also, the enemies you do use Repurpose on stay in the area, so whenever you're gonna visit back this area, whatever it may be, you're gonna find these enemies again, and they will serve you for the better part of forever. That took a while. This spell is very complicated, but it needed explanation. On to level 6. False Grace is insane. This spell acts like false life, but it affects all allies in 30 feet radius and grants 3d10 per caster level, temporary hit points. This means it can, to a maximum, give 47 HP to everybody. It is a 1 hour per level. It is a single cast. It is very strong. If you should include this in your pre-buffing time, if you can. Siphon Life, duration 1 hour. This spell works like Vampiric Touch, except it's a ranged touch attack in medium range, and the amount of damage is 1d6 per caster level. So essentially, this is Exsanguinate, but it heals you for it. Now, is this good? Is this bad? Well, it's Exsanguinate. The real problem about it is that you have to land a touch attack. Now, touch attack is not that bad. Excuse me. Range attack, touch attack are not hard to land. I'm gonna make this clear. There is, however, maybe a 40% chance you will miss. So this is a straight up worst Exsanguinate that will heal you for a few damage. The real thing is that I think it is better to use False Grace to just buff your whole party than Siphon Life. And there is one last spell in this level 6 that is even better than both of those. It is Siphon Time. Now, this is Haste. Everybody who played the game knows about Haste. Everybody who hasn't played the game yet, all you need to know is that Haste is one of the most important buff there is in the game. It basically makes your whole party a lot better. It ups everything. It's like if it's just over caffeinated party members. It is very insane. The cool part about this is that Siphon Time also affect the slow spells on the enemy. The DC is 25, they will most likely pass it. But if it lands, oh god, if it lands, it's great. You can also just use this as another haste thing. It is 1 round per level, but it's pretty good. So I would recommend Siphon Time and False Grace as pre-buffs or fighting haste. Level 7. Blessing of Unlife. Your power of Unlife lets you temporarily make your own allies similar to Undead. For 10 minutes per caster level, a chosen ally gain Undead immunities, negative energy affinity, and damage reduction 5 to bludgeoning. That's good in a way. So to cast this spell on your whole party, you would need 5 effect. Approximately. Depending on how many undead companions you have and depending on how many you want. That means it will take a lot. It will take a lot. The reason this spell exists is because undead gets hurt by healing spell and healed by hurtful spells that channel negative energy. Therefore, your healer can kill your whole squad if he misheals everything. Now this won't happen if you have selective channel, but do note that this is a possibility. It is a spell that's there. You can always slot it into your spellbook, but I don't use it personally, and I don't know much people who do. Feast of Blood. This spell acts as Exsanguinate, except it affects all enemies in a 20 feet radius and grant the caster temporary hit points equal to the maximum damage dealt. Exsanguinate is the guaranteed damage we talked about earlier. Now, that's a spell. That's a really cool spell. What can I say? It is guaranteed damage, and it is an AoE. I do like this spell quite a lot. Restore Undead. This spell fully heals all ally undead's creature. There's all there is to it. It's a 10-foot burst centered on the caster. It's all there is to it. If you have a lot of undead, take at least one of those. In these, this is very situational. This is fairly situational. So I would just mass Feast of Blood. Honestly, Exsanguinate is great. It's guaranteed damage, and this is guaranteed damage on everybody. Level 8. We're getting into the weird level here. First one is going to be Domain of the Hungry Flesh. You create a terrible abomination in an area. It attacks everything inside, trying to trip, using your caster level instead of the bonus attack, base attack bonus, and spellcasting ability score instead of strength. That means it's gonna trip everything forever. Nothing will save it. Anything that enters this gets tripped forever. Dealing 2d6 plus caster level damage, entangling, and dealing 1d4 damage to a random physical ability score. The area lasts for 1 round per caster level. That's insane. You place it far away from your team. You don't want no one to walk in there. This is insanely strong. And then you just watch it happen. You just watch everybody trip, lose all their abilities, and slowly die. It will take a while, but the spell lasts for a long time. Trust me, there was hard encounters in this game. There are hard encounters in this game that are coming. Domain of the Hungry Flesh just neutralizes the whole thing. It's probably one, if not the best spell in the Lich's spellbook. You just need to know how to use it properly. You can also go to Metamagic and make it so the spell is selective, so it only hurts the enemies. But I don't know. I feel like this spell is good enough, and that would make it a 9 level spell, and you don't have that many spots for it. So yeah, Domain of the Hungry Flesh, great spell. Next up, for level 8 spells, Embrace of Death. You surround the target with necromantic energy, embracing it with the power of unlife. If the target fails a will saving throw, it falls into a coma and starts receiving 1d6 constitution drain every round. It can attempt new saving throw every round. On a successful save, it is staggered for 1 more round and suffers 1d6 constitution drain. Okay, let's talk about this spell. There is a will saving throw at the beginning, and then it hurts constitution, which is not affecting will by any means. And then if it succeeds another will saving throw, it will pass. Now in theory, this is a great spell, right? Because you're stunning the target, and it takes damage. You don't even have to care about it, and if you want to care about it, you can just coup de grace it. The reality of the thing is, most enemies will pass the initial will check, and if they don't, they will pass the second one. This is a save or suck spell, and if you want it, take it, but I don't think it's that great. That does it for level 8. There's only 2 spells. I think Domain of the Hungry Flesh is by far the better one. Level 9. This is the final level, by the way. There is nothing after that. This is the meta magic section. Level 9 is the final level. All you're going to be able to do is get more of those spells in your spell slots. At level 13 and 17 respectively, I only have 3 spell slots, and one of those is my favorite school. So we'll go over it. Flay for purpose. Every creature has a purpose in life, and that is to serve you. The target is affected by Repurpose, except the damage is 2d6 per round. After that, the target makes a Fortitude save. If it fails, the target takes 10 damage per caster level. This is basically Repurpose on crack. It is going to shred through an enemy. The thing is, you don't necessarily want to use this on bosses, and this is basically your highest level spell used in a random ass fight. Now, Repurpose is insanely fun and insanely flavorful and also very good, surprisingly good. I just think this is a worse version than Repurpose because it costs so much to put out there. And honestly, if you put Repurpose on something, you're probably gonna focus it down anyways with your rogue that has 7 attacks with throwing axes. The guy is gonna die, whether it has flavor for purpose or not. Cool flavor. I might use this at some point if there's a really hard encounter that I cannot do anything about, but for now, not that great. And the final spell is Negative Eruption. This spell acts as a harm spell, but affects all creatures in 30 feet radius. Additionally, all affected undead creatures gain +2 bonus to attack rolls, damage rolls, roll saving throws, and twice a caster level temporary hit point. And harm reads: harm charges a subject with negative energy, deals 10 points of damage per caster level. If the creature successfully saves, arm deals half this amount. If used on an undead creature, arms acts like heal. So basically this is later on it is a full heal for everybody, and it buffs them to hell if they're undead. Now, this is where it's gonna come to the whole thing. You have undead companions. Are you gonna use them? Are you gonna use your own party? How many undead minions are you gonna have? How strong and how useful are they gonna be? This is all about it, but it exists. It is very situational, I will say. But if you do end up having a lot of the undead companions, it's insanely strong and very fun. So that does it for the spellbook. I'm gonna go over the mythic path real quick, just so you can see, and then we're gonna call it a day. So over the time that you get all of these, you get a few summon spells, like Summon Fallen, Summon Plague Mastodon, Summon Plague Beast Mastodons, so you summon more than one. Summon Ecorch, Summon Nightshade Nightcrawler, Summon Nightshade Nightcrawler and Ecorch, Summon Ravener Dragon. All of these are gonna be big summons, and they're gonna be undead, so you're gonna be able to heal them and whatnot with all the spells that we saw before. You also get our friends like Delamere here. Whoops, I'm gonna redo this a little bit. Here we go. We're gonna get party members like Delamere, which are also undead. You'll notice undead don't have constitution, they use their charisma instead. So you can use those. They are less flavorful than your normal companion because they are to a single class, well, a single path, but they still exist and they will be extremely strong if you do use all of them and then pick all the buffs. I know I will change a few party members in the late game just to be a more flavorful Lich, and I can assure you this will be very useful. This does it for the Lich mythic class spell show off or whatnot. If you guys enjoyed or if you learned anything, make sure to let me know in the comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe. It can't hurt. I'm gonna be releasing more and more content, guide wise and fun fact wise. I also do playthroughs. Right now I am doing Pathfinders and Tales of Arise. I just finished Death's Gambit Afterlife, which was a Souls-like 2D platformer in the Metroidvania style. Was really fun. So I'll see you guys all over on my channel. Ciao.